Hello everyone, Bashar here. As you can maybe guess from the opening screen, guys, we have something that's very nice that's coming. It's something we have been talking about for some time, and Plarium did it. You guessed it. Live arena bonuses are coming to additional various areas of the game. And when I say additional various areas, I do mean everywhere, right? Literally everywhere. So, and we have been wanting about these for some time. And thing is, I, for example, got my own teams done. That's a shame for me, but it is going to help a lot of the early mid-game players. I don't think I am exaggerating when I say live arena is the most important thing in the game now. So where is it coming to? It is coming to stuff that a lot of players have been done for, like faction wars, but still for upcoming players it could be pretty nice. And also the important thing is what the grade will be, right? Because for example, potion keeps are grade 1, so even though potion keeps are pretty weak, if let's say faction wars is going to be grade 1, you can invest a little there because they are very thoroughly very cheap. Right, take a look at this. Only 21, right? Only 25 for the first level. So you could, for example, spend like 250 to get 6 speed, and I think it's going to be across all of them. So it can be useful. What else do we have? We have Doom Tower, and that is another area that all late game players are done with. But if you are, climbing, it is definitely going to be helpful. I would guess that Doom Tower is going to be probably grade 2. Right? I'm guessing Faction Wars is a little basic. It could be grade 1. That basically means Lydia for quite everyone. Right? And then we have Iron Twins, Sand Devil, and Phantom Shogun, which I think are going to be separate places. And they would be probably grade 2 as well. And finally we have Curse City, which is extremely important for everyone, right? Maybe it's not as important for the early game player, right? But it is definitely very important for mid game and up, because there are extremely nasty rooms. And if you have what I have in Fire Knight there, imagine you have 20 additional speed, 20% defense ignore, and 30% crit damage. A lot more players will start finishing it. Quite useful. So that's it, right? 6 places are coming. 6 locations are coming to the live arena. So I wish, of course, the amount of live arena medals that you want to obtain goes up by an insane amount. I wish they would buff the amount of medals that we would get. That's not coming, but maybe it will, because imagine. So this is something I'm safely assuming that everyone is ignoring, but these are pretty valuable. Fire Knight being the hardest dungeon, Fire Knight is somewhere people spend a lot, and Hydra of course is the biggest expense of them all. Demon Lord, for those players that don't have it done yet, it can be some medal sync. It was for me, as you can see. I wish of course I could respec here, right? These medals are just wasted for me, right? I do have finally a good team now, and these medals are wasted, but sadly there is no respec in live arena coming. But these are very nice because the Iron Twins, the Sand Devil, and the Shogun do require a lot of stats, right? So it can be very hard to meet those stats, and now we will have the live arena bonuses helping us. Faction Wars, as I said, the early mid game guy, very good. Doom Tower, guys are a little in later stages of the game compared to the early mid. Still pretty useful if you are not finishing Doom Tower, because guys, imagine you put a single point in speed there, and you get 2 speed in all 120, actually 240 floors. I'm just going to assume that everyone has normal sorted out. Right? Normal is pretty easy. I, for example, am going to invest 0 points in there, in Doom Tower, in Faction Wars, right? I have those done in Shogun as well, and in Iron Twins as well, so they don't help me. But Sand Devil is a little bit nasty. I'm doing the Blizzard solo team, and it requires an extreme amount of survivability on Blizzard side if you can go unlucky. So I might be able to, invest a few points in HP and defense there maybe. So I don't really die, but I feel like I can have around the 1%, maybe a little lower loss rate. And it's not actually necessary, right? I could, just take the loss and move on, but I just don't like the defeat on my screen. So I could maybe invest about, wow, that's actually a bit. So I'm hoping, guys, none of it will be grade 3, because as you can see, grade 3 is extremely expensive. I'm afraid that Curse City can be grade 3. Faction Wars feels like it would be grade 1. The dungeons would be grade 2, Iron Twins, Sand Devil and Shogun. Doom Tower, I feel it would be grade 2 because it's pretty old feature. But never know, maybe they'll go grade 3. I don't think they would go grade 3. But Curse City feels, I hope I'm wrong, but Curse feels like it will be grade 3. But I'm still, of course, very thankful. I'm just going to go all in, right? So those nastiest levels, we will have some semblance of a break, everything in there is worth investing. So that's going to be great, right? The people that do suffer in Sintranos, which is almost everyone in the world, are going to have an easier time. Even the people that finish are suffering, actually. So we could say everyone in the world is suffering, and they would, of course, have a very easy time, because the nastiest rooms, and imagine you have 20 additional speed there, right? That will be quite the breathing room. The defense ignores the crit damage, everything, right? So this is a huge and magnificent change, and there will be an upcoming champion chase. And as you might have noticed, it's actually arriving 1 day early, right? It's going to be arriving on Thursday, right after the CVC ends, so we can open our prism shards during it, so we can get some additional points there. So what will we have? So the thing is, if you recall, in the last 2x rotation, they actually messed up the order, and which drives me crazy. If it's working, don't touch it, right? So normally we have Ancient, Sacred, Void, right? That's the 2x rotation. You have an Ancient 2x, 2 weeks later you have a Sacred 2x, and 2 weeks later you will have a Void 2x. Last time around they did Ancient, Void, Sacred, right? They messed the order up. But the thing is, it looks like we are going back to the original. So if you recall, 2 weeks ago we had the Ancient 2x, and now we are going to have the Sacred 2x. So a Sacred 2x is arriving tomorrow. This champion chase looks like it's going to last 4 days, and the first 2 days we will have a Sacred 2x, and on top of it we will have Aislinn 10x as well, right? So we will have a Sacred 10x and a 2x on Aislinn, right? Aislinn is the new faction unit skill champion from the Bannerlord faction. He's great, right? Let's find them. Where is the handsome fella? There he is. He has a special icon, as you can see here. I think that denotes the aura that gets stronger when you have, some faction war. The guys from the same faction. So there will be a 10x on the first 2 days. So February 29th and March the 1st, and it's going to end on the 2nd of March. We will have a 2x on Aislinn alongside with 10x on Sacreds, right? And after that expires, we will have one last chance, right? This is not official, I'm just saying this, to obtain the beautiful archer. So the 2x on sacreds will continue, and we will have a 10x to summon the archer. And if you're curious as to how that works, the 10x means if you hit a legendary, you will have an approximately around, let's say, 6% or so chance to hit the archer, right? That's how it is. So 12% of getting a legendary from a sacred shard, and 6% of that legendary being the archer, which means we will have a 0.7% chance per shard for the archer if we do that. So my suggestion would be definitely going for the archer, because the thing is, guys, so archer I would say is a better champion, right? So they are very specific. Both of them have very specific uses. So Aislinn did not have the effect on the arena that we expected him to have. We kind of were thinking about maybe Stautus, Taras, Marichka, and Aislinn, or even maybe double Taras, Marichka, and Aislinn. I mean, it couldn't fit in the meta. It couldn't compete with UDK and Sifi teams. So he's not there. So he's a good champion, but he didn't have the effect that we expected him to. And Archer is very hyped. I would say overly hyped, but of course a pretty good champion, an extremely good Hydra champion. 3-turn AoE Hex and 2-turn AoE Provoke with a single skill is just insane. She also has some very nice stuff in her kit. And thing is, she's going away in about a week. So she will become the next ninja, right? She will be unobtainable by any other means. And she will be discontinued unless, Plarium decides to bring her back at some point, which I very much doubt, because, this is part of the Capcom collaboration with Monster Hunter. So there will be, I would say, copyright issues, and I don't think she will be ever coming back. And as I said, she's going away in about 6 days or 5 days, I think. I mean, the Monster Hunter collaboration is ending on the 6th of March. So I am guessing these are, really the final things, our final chance to get her. So from the 2nd of March up to the, I think, 4th of March or something, we will have a 10x on Archer. So I would, suggest that you, use your sacred shards then, and hopefully you can hit her. Of course, you could have some high mercy maybe to trigger it. So that's it. 10x on the Archer and 10x on the Aislinn. They won't be simultaneous. So as I said, the chances of getting that specific legendary would be around 6% or so, because I think there are approximately 160 or so colored legendaries in the game. So 10x means you will have a 10 in 170 chance, which is approximately equal to 6%. So that's it. And I have one other final piece of news, and 3 champions are being rebalanced, and this time around, right, I will give it to them. This time around, it's not like Fortus and Anger, right? This time it's proper, right? At least Little Miss Annie is proper. So what we have is Little Miss Annie, Suprema Thel, and Siegfried the Nephilim, right? One of the first few mythicals that were added to the game. He was underperforming. He has been buffed. Suprema Thel was failing very much behind from her Supreme counterparts. She also has been buffed too. And I would say the best one, the most proper one is Little Miss Annie. I know that a few friends of mine, have her, and they cried when they opened her, but I think she can be maybe a little bit similar to Rotos. So what I mean by that is she is going to be a very nice single target nuker. So let's go over the changes that are coming for Little Miss Annie. So the A1 is now going to place a decreased defense alongside with the heal reduction. So, and as you can see, it books up to 75%. So 3 hits, and each hit will have a 100% heal reduction, 75% chance, and a 60% decreased defense chance, right? And thing is, guys, 75% on 3 hits separately, right? That is like a 1% or so failing chance. So we can assume that she does put up those debuffs, right? That's great. And she had a ton of conditions. Those conditions were removed. So the increased attack buff gets applied no matter what. There is no condition about the shield. And also she will be ignoring the defense always. So the increased attack buff and the defense ignore shield conditions are going to go away. So she will always place increased attack on herself, and she will always ignore 25% of target's defense, right? And also she always gets the perfect veil, even if she doesn't kill. And she also always gets the 30% turn meter, right? I mean, take a look at that buff. So that means this ability has received 4 buffs, right? You don't need the target to be under a shield buff to receive the attack buff. You don't need to the target to have a shield buff to ignore their defense. You don't need to kill anyone to receive the perfect veil, and you also don't need anyone to survive to get the 30% turn meter. And thing is, guys, these were mutually exclusive, right? So you could not trigger both, right? You would either trigger the perfect veil or the 30% turn meter. Now you trigger both always, even if you kill or don't kill, right? It's great. And I would say these are pretty great buffs, right? So I think she looks like pretty good now. And finally, it's not even there, right? It doesn't even end there. So the defense ignore will always work, right? They don't have to have higher defense than this one, which is not, actually very important because she's an attack-based champion and you wouldn't have very high defense on her. But, imagine you are attacking a Candraphone with less defense and you still will ignore the defense. And she also always destroys the target max HP. This is also, not a very serious condition. Could have been easily met, but still, as I said, let's say you are nuking a tanky Georgette, for example. Squishy Georgette, for example, and they have less HP than you wouldn't destroy their HP. Now you do, right? And the attack repeating condition is sadly still there, but as I said, I think that should be very easy to pull off for Little Miss Annie because she gets revived and she attacks everyone. So you are going to build her extremely squishy, right? Low defense and low HP, so it will repeat the ability. And something else has been added: if she kills anyone with this one, she gets a revive on death buff on herself, which is very good for Little Miss Annie because when she gets revived, she attacks the person that killed them, right? And this passive has not been changed, but her other passive has been changed. So the turn meter reduction goes up to 10%. So she has a 50% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 10% per hit, right? Imagine the A1 being a triple hitter, right? The A2 is a double hitter and the A3 is a single hitter, but it can repeat itself and it will most likely repeat itself. So that is going to be a lot of turn meter control. And also the HP destruction goes up to 10% and accepts heal reduction or decreased defense as the condition. So it used to destroy 5% of the HP if she's attacking heal reduction, targets under heal reduction. Now she's going to destroy 10% if she attacks a target under heal reduction or decreased defense, right? Pretty lovely. And the heal goes up to 10% as well, and it also accepts decreased defense like the first part. So she is going to heal herself by 10% of the damage that's inflicted if she attacks any target under heal reduction or decreased defense, right? And I would say this adds up to quite a lot, right? And this is a proper champion buff, right? you remove the conditions, you increase the damage, blah blah. So her multipliers were not bad, so they didn't increase her multipliers, but I think this is a pretty good overall buff. We'll see how it goes. I don't think she's going to be the next Taras, but I mean, I think she will come out of the vaults, right? She can be used a little bit. So Supreme Thale, we said that she was underperforming compared to the other Supreme counterparts. So what's she getting? This ability gets his damage buffed. Sadly, Plarium does not disclose how much of a damage buff it will be. I would love it if they didn't, they don't have to give out the multiplier, but I would love it if they said, damage will be increased by approximately 30%, right? That would be lovely. They just don't do that. But I'm hoping it's not like 5%. It's going to be serious. This one also has this damage buffed, and on top of it, she does the freeze before attacking. So there is an upside to this and there is a downside to this. The upside is that she does not trigger counterattacks because she is going to freeze everyone. And she will always ignore strength and ally protection and unkillable, no matter if they are under freeze or not. And now she will also ignore 20% of the enemy's defense if they have a freeze. So guys, freeze is a little bit annoying. I mean, it's a nice CC, but it also makes you deal 25% less damage to the targets under freeze debuffs, right? And by ignoring 20% of her defense, I don't think she will be going to lose a lot of damage, because, as I said, she will freeze them and will deal 25% less damage to them, but she will also be ignoring 20% of their defense, which is, I think, going to negate. And there is also a damage increase buff going on for the skill, so I would say on overall that's pretty good. And this ability now also gives her an increased accuracy buff as well, so that's pretty great. So you can have your freeze placed, right? Because Supreme Thal sadly is not the example of a perfect champion, because she doesn't have too much that is going on with accuracy. So she helping her case by giving herself an increased accuracy buff is pretty nice. So you can build her with, let's say, 300 or so accuracy, and she will be freezing everyone most of the time. There is no change to her passive, so she stays the same. So her A1 has her damage increased, so A2 has her damage increased. The freeze always goes, and even if you fail to freeze because of lack of accuracy, you will still ignore strength and ally protection and unkillable, which is great. And on top of it, if you manage to freeze, you will also be ignoring 20% of the defense. So this doesn't sound bad, right? And we have an increased accuracy buff added to the list of buffs that the A3 provides. It's not bad overall, but of course we would have to see the increase in damage, right? How much is it? Right? Very important. Is it 10%? Is it 15%? Is it 30%? So 30% is serious, right? It could be good. And the final buff champion is, as I said, one of the first. Is he Sacred Order? He is. One of the first mythicals that were added to the game. I think the 5 were added. He was one of them. And he was underperforming a little bit. So his nuclear form, well, very simple. He has damage increase across all abilities. The A1 has this damage increase, the A2 has this damage increase, the A3 has this damage increased, and now here comes the bomb, guys. He will ignore 50% of defense with this ability now. So that is very serious, because I do say something at times. So if a champion has 50% defense ignore on his kit somewhere, right, he is going to get very powerful with Savage. Why? Because you give him Savage and the defense ignore goes up to 75%, and you give him the Ham Smasher Mastery, which allows you to ignore 25% of defense 50% of the time, which means you can hit that sweet 100% defense ignore. And thing is, guys, the way that defense ignore works is the more you have, the better it gets, right? So the first 25%, that will of course vary depending on target, but the first 25% will allow you to deal like 25-30% increase more damage, more increased damage, something like it. As I said, it will vary with the target's defense, but the second 25%, let's say 40% ish, so it is more efficient. It allows you to deal more damage. That is on top of the 30% that you were receiving. And then the third one is going to be like 50% or so, and then the last one, the 100% defense ignore on top of the 75%, that's going to increase your damage by like 200%. And I'm not exaggerating numbers, right? Because the way the defense works, you get more out of it when you ignore more. So, being able to hit that 100% is, very nice. And so this champion has been buffed very thoroughly, right? This is a huge buff, right? We will of course also have to see how much the damage was increased by, but it still is pretty good. And also it doesn't even end there. So on top of this, there is the passive. So the passive gives him a 2-turn block damage buff now, right? Very annoying. I mean, and this is not something that gets surpassed by Georgid or anyone, because there is this weird text, right? It doesn't say puts up a block damage buff if he would receive a killing blow. No. It says blocks incoming damage. That is not something that you can ignore, right? Because it's just text. It just blocks the damage. So, unless you block passives, this you cannot ignore this. And now the block damage goes up to 2 turns. And here comes the more annoying combo. So guys, you nuke this guy, right? And he saves himself and he changes in the alternate form, and his revive also get buffed. His revive now puts a 2-turn block damage on everyone, which is horrible, right? Pretty annoying. So this guy does much more damage, and on top of it, when you try to kill him, he puts up a block damage on himself for 2 turns, and then he revives everyone with 2-turn block damage on them. Yeah, so there are no buffs to his stats, but yeah, that is very serious. I think the owners of Siegfried are going to be very happy now. And that's the kind of stuff that we like to see, guys. You pull off a mythical, right? And that doesn't happen very often. And it is, a vault warmer. I mean, Siegfried was not a vault warmer, but still, he wasn't very good. Now he is pretty good. I wish one day these buffs hit something I have. As you might have seen from my index, I don't have either of them. But I am, happy that, someone is going to get something out of this, because I have a friend that has a +2 Little Miss Annie. Now she is going to be very useful. I think we have someone in the clan with a 6-star Siegfried Soul. I'm sure he's going to be very happy. So that is it for the upcoming changes. And of course, the biggest thing is obviously live arena coming everywhere. And so guys, my suggestion to you now would be, don't, ever neglect it. It has to be done every single day. It's magnificent. And I know it's also very annoying, but the rewards are just too much to pass on now. That's it, and I will see you on stream. And one final minor thing, so there is a problem with Twitch and Turkey right now. We as the Turkish people cannot access Twitch right now, and I am unable to stream on Twitch. So these days I am streaming on my YouTube channel until the situation is mended, and I have started hearing stuff of the kind, so I'm hoping it will be soon. So I will see you on the stream. Bye bye.